2 cop cars come rolling up, and they kind of jump out, and they're like, pull their guns like, freeze, and I'm like, no, you freeze. And they're like, drop your weapon. I'm like, I'm gonna count to 3, and one of you will never see your family again. 3, 2, and they like drop, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay. I'm like, so let me tell you what's going on. And this is all just sitting in the alley behind Charity Hospital. I'm like, what's going on? Where's this water coming from, So I get up, and I go around and I look down the street towards like University and everything down there, and I'm like, there's just chaos. I mean, it's just water. Just, you can see it. It's physical, just coming down the street. Boom, now we lose power. We're like, what do we do? I don't know. So Ryan's on a stint, mechanically breathing, all these things. Like we need all these things for him to do this or he's not gonna make it. We need all these things to keep working. Like no fly zone, like military, police protected, no fly zone. Here comes my boy, just ripping through buildings with 2 on his ass, And he just comes in and we run to the freaking helipad at the Dome and we throw the guys off the helipad who are trying to guard it, whatever. It's, they lived or whatever. He just comes in and boom, just puts it down.
Hopefully you saw episode 1. If you didn't see episode 1 in this Eric Cook series, you need to back up and watch that because it's the setup for what you are about to watch right now. So if you haven't seen 1, hit pause right now, scroll back.
It's in the description below. You can click it in the description below.
Click there, watch that, and then join us. So if you did watch 1, you know what's coming. And it's Katrina. And this guy, we saw on the news what was going on in New Orleans, but you saw broad strokes. And what you're about to hear is a very personal, poignant accounting of a story that there were 1,000 other of these going on at the same time. And I think a lot of what, if you're watching us in Peoria or, San Francisco, wherever you are, Katrina is all about New Orleans and everything. But to be honest with you, Katrina hit Mississippi. It hit Waveland, Mississippi, and the eastern wall wiped. I mean, we're 70 miles north of the Gulf of Mexico, and we had 120-something mile-an-hour winds. We lost 40% of our trees. But as bad as it was here, it's nothing compared to what happened. Katrina hit Mississippi, but the levees broke in New Orleans. It's just I don't know what else to say, but you gotta watch this to get the full impact of how it affected one man, his family, and his friends.
Well, and there's so much you could say, but I think this is one of those that just speaks for itself.
Yeah.
So, part 2 of Eric Cook on You Gotta Eat.
Here it
is. Sunday before Katrina hit.
Oh.
So I fly in on that Monday because I couldn't get out on Sunday. I had to wait till Monday morning. So I actually slept at the airport waiting for a 6 a.m. flight. I knew all night hanging out in there, like waiting. In like Bob's Airport, like some Quonset hut in the middle of Arkansas. Not knowing what's going on. All I know is that he may be dead, So I get home and the deal was, it was the last Sunday before school started. Ryan was a big football player, he was tight end, he was a big dude. It was everything. He was class clown. He was the wittiest. He was me, and like little, like stamp. There's no doubt whose son he was. And they went tubing on a Trifecta. They were drinking, like everybody does. And he was a passenger behind the driver's side. 5 kids in the car, 2 front, 3 in the back. After a long day of tubing, they were driving back home. Road didn't have a shoulder. The kid was drinking. They said they all tried to stop him, but whatever, your kids, nobody knows anything. So they were driving home. Car went off the road on the shoulder, and he pulled back, overcorrected, and launched the car, and they hit a tree doing, 85 or something. Driver died in impact, 16-year-old kid.
Jeez, man.
Brother and sister both died in the car. On the other side of the car, twins, brother, sister, dead. And then a girl in the middle was thrown out of the back window, and she was the miracle. They found her walking around the scene unscathed at the thing. Ryan behind driver, impact side, took a full hit to the left side of his body. So he had a brain injury, counter coup, his face was just destroyed. Everything this way was just destroyed, So brain injury, bad. It was bad. You know, he was fucking wrecked, you know, destroyed. And he was alive because no one knew, because everyone was so unrecognizable that no one could pick out who was who. So they'd have parents come in and start identifying their kids and who was what, you know, which is a hard thing to do. Yeah. So
What?
I show back up to New Orleans, you know, Charity Hospital, you know, I mean, I'm downtown New Orleans, Charity Hospital.
Katrina had hit by then.
Katrina's not hit.
Not hit.
This is the week before. So Sunday before it happened, I arrived the Monday before the Sunday when it hit.
Yeah. Got it.
So now my ex-wife is there. I'm single, you know, lunatic, still pretty much, kind of on my own, you know, and there's like thousands of kids there, thousands of kids, you know, thousands.
Classmates.
Yeah, big deal. You know, he was at Hannon. And so the weird thing was I'm in the parking lot at some point smoking a cigarette, and there's kids everywhere, you know. And so this group of girls in the parking lot. I'm gonna get through it.
Yeah, take your time.
And it's like I start talking to somebody like da da da, yeah man, no 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 no, and these girls freak out and just start crying and leave. And I'm like, what the fuck was all that about? You know, whatever, you know. So I'm like, I figured everybody's traumatized, you know. So one of them comes back and he says, look, we didn't mean to run out on you, but every word you say, every gesture you make, you're Ryan, you're him, and you're too close. We can't handle it, you know. So we're that, you know, genetically alike. And so everything goes on, we're crazy, you know, and I end up hanging out with my ex-wife and nothing's really going on. All my friends are bringing us food, you know, I'm shacked up in that place.
Charity,
yeah. He's on the 7th floor at NICU. I'm on the 3rd floor, living in a waiting room. And, you know, doctors are telling him to get a stent in his brain. You know, we're watching the pressure up and down in his brain. You know, it's a major deal. You know, he's in a coma, you know, an induced coma. And he's pretty jacked up. They don't know if he's going to live and all this stuff. And so I remember the Saturday before the storm, we had heard some whispers about a storm in the Gulf and da-da-da-da-da. It was no big deal, but everyone thought it was Florida. You know, like it's going to Florida because it was coming through Miami, I think, at that time, you know. And we're like, it's Florida, you know. And then we're involved in this. We were like 24 hours a day. We're in visiting hours, doctors, nurses, visiting hours, you know. And when you can sleep, you try and sleep. And so I remember Saturday, I came down from the room, 7th floor, NICU, probably 20 patients in there. So, and I kind of hit the chair, those most uncomfortable friggin' chairs. And I click on the TV, and I remember like the boom. And there she was, you know, the massive.
Covering the whole Gulf.
And I was like.
Headed this way.
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck is that? You know, and people are starting to move around like, what is this? And they're like, yeah, my aunt's in the Gulf, I think it's coming this way. I'm like,
turned.
Yeah, I'm like, what is going on, man? So at that point, people start showing up like, man, what are y'all gonna do? This hurricane's coming, they're looking at it, it's gonna be major, like la la la, what are y'all gonna do? I'm like, we're not going anywhere. I'm like, what are we gonna do with Ryan? Ryan can't go anywhere. The doctors are like, we can't move him, he's gonna die, you know? Like, I'm like, all right, we're gonna ride this thing. I'm like, well, we're gonna stay, you know? So people are bringing us things. My brother shows up and he was like, you know, there's one for you, you know, there's one for you. I got like, you know, I'm just basically going into military mode, you know? I'm like, all right, let me just get through this storm, you know? And we've been through storms before, you know? I'm like, no big deal, you know? So we hunker down. Everybody I know evacuates. Everybody's gone. We're in Charity Hospital. Katrina hits New Orleans. Boom, you know? And I'm like, I remember being out the window, like in between the windows. It was like the wind was like, it would come up the side of the building. You know, that building's in the form of an H, you know, for Huey P, you know? So it's an H building. So the wind would get inside these walls outside. It was like a train going up and down, you know? The building's like, it was just massive. And then you start seeing the damage go down, you know, like the roof of the dome peeled off. I was like staring right at it when it happened. You're like, rah, this big chunk comes off, slams into the Hyatt, and all of a sudden there's so much debris flying around. My brain immediately goes to, you know, like a machine gun hitting a building. I'm like, wow, it's just getting machine gun. I remember telling a friend, like, the Hyatt's getting machine gun, you know? It's just like boom, 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 and just windows are blowing out and things are flying. There's curtains in the air and stuff flying. I mean, it's just stuff the world is full of debris, and it's just, it's madness. It's like, I'm like, woo, this is great. You know, I was on the phone with a friend of mine. I was like, this is fucking awesome. You know, like, whoo, you know, I was in the middle of this big, massive thing. I'm like, and I love that shit, you know? And it was really exhilarating. I was like, what a cool fucking storm. You know, Mother Nature just slamming it, you know? And we got through it. You know, that was that. You know, the next day, you know, we had power all through it, you know, it was nothing crazy. You know, the windows in NICU were like double super pane.
They had generators.
Yeah, I mean, well, we didn't lose power, you know, because it's all, you know, we didn't flood, you know. It was just a lot of rain, a lot of wind, a lot of damage. And so the next morning, I remember I'm downstairs outside on the loading dock smoking a cigarette, and there's a leaf on the ground. I was like, whatever. And I'm watching this leaf, and the water came and grabbed the leaf and floated off. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I got up and I grabbed the leaf, put it back in front of me. Water came up and grabbed it, moved it off. Not crap. Picked the leaf up and brought it back closer to me, you know, and the water came and got the leaf. And this is all just sitting in the alley behind Charity Hospital. And so I'm like, what's going on? Where's this water coming from, you know? So I get up and I go around and I look down the street towards like university and everything down there, you know, and I'm like, there's just chaos. I mean, it's just water. Just, you can see it. It's physical, just coming down the street. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, that's not good. So I run inside. Emergency room's on the first floor, ER's down there, operating's on the first floor. And I bust in, and I knew a lot of cats in there at this point. I'm like, hey man, come see this. Hey, come see this. You know, so I was bringing people outside. I'm like, this is, you know, it's flooding. They started getting reports like 17th Street Canal busted, because it wasn't the 9th Ward levee bust, it was the 17th Street Canal. Once 17th Street Canal went and those systems failed over there, now you had 9th Ward coming this way. The quarter's actually the highest ground in the city where it was built. So they had like this much water in the whole quarter, you know. Everything else goes down there. 9th Ward destroyed, and it came from downtown to us. So the water came in, and probably within 4 or 5 hours, we had 11 feet of water in the first floor. And it was just
11
going.
feet of water in the first floor emergency room at Charity Hospital.
That's crazy, man.
It just came in, boom, you know. And so now we had to move, everything's been moved with chaos. We moved to the second floor. The generators for the building are subterranean, they're underground. Boom, now we lose power. So now it's like, okay, what are we doing? We need to do some power. So skeleton crew in the hospital because of the hurricane. But like the recon crew, you know, like these are the storm king dudes, you know, never better. To this day, they were combat. And we're like, what do we do? I don't know. So we got some generators, we got these things, you know, NICU was out. They're running generators on a critical. Ryan's on a stint. He's on a being, you know, mechanically breathing, all these things, you know, like we need all these things for him to do this, or he's not going to make it. We need all these things to keep working. So the first night they got to go in and get the stint out because we can't leave it in because it's supposed to be monitored with electricity. We would minimize all things. They got to pull the stint out. So the stint comes out of his head, do a surgery on him, and then he's got to get through that. And now the word is like, hey, we don't have any way, you know, now New Orleans is destroyed. I mean, like it's underwater, it's mayhem. I mean, mayhem, I could think about it, I could see it. Mayhem, you know, you just look out the window and it's just, you know, people up to their neck in water walking down Tulane Avenue, and, you know, like, what the hell's going on? We watched them break into the Burger King across the street, you know, and steal everything out of there, and we're like screaming at them out of the window like, it's been no refrigeration for, no, fuck, you know, good luck with that. You know, people just robbing everything at this point. It's chaos, you know. And they're like, look, we don't have gas for, you know, these generators. We got to figure it out, you know. And some of the doctors that I knew were like, there's a whole parking garage next door where all these cars are. Let's go get some gas. I'm like, let's get some gas. So we started rallying tanks and every vessel we get. We started siphoning gas out of cars that were parked in the garages downtown. So we'd go on these missions to go get gas and bring it back, you know. At one point, Ryan had like 106 fever at one point, you know, and they're like, he's not going to make it through this fever, you know. And I'm like, what the fuck do we need? Like, you need ice. I'm like, where do I get ice? They're like, there's no ice here. I'm like, who has ice? And like, University Hospital on the 7th floor has an ice machine. I'm like, I'm gone. You know, so I like into the water, swim to University, grab these massive trash bags, quadruple bag them, pack as much ice as I can carry on myself, back downstairs, swim back to Charity, back up 7 flights, and go ice, you know. And so some started calling me Iceman. I'm like, oh, the Iceman. I'm like, Iceman, whatever. So at this point, you know, time is nothing relevant. It's day and night, day and night. I'm running shifts with the nurses. I'm like helping them give IVs. I'm checking temperatures. I'm part of the crew at this point, you know. I'm like, just, you get intertwined, you know. I mean, everyone, these nurses are working 70 hours, you know. Nurses are telling other nurses, go to bed, you know, you got to get some sleep, you know. Everyone's just trying to keep patients alive, you know. And like, and it became what they said, y'all need to, because they told everybody, they said, you need to prioritize your patients. That was the thing they said, like, prioritize your patients. Who's your most high priority and who's your low priority? And the whole staff was like, there's no low priority patients. And they took a bunch of shit for it because the docs was like, you need to pick because we can't take everybody. Like, if we can't take everybody, then we lose everybody. And so there was this big internal war going in of guys who were running hospitals and nurses who didn't want to lose patients, you know, and it got really ugly. But they were just patient oriented, you know. So I had run into these firefighters from Shreveport. They were rolling around in a flatboat downtown, boats running around downtown. I mean, like literally, like cars were 6 feet below them, you know, and we're talking to these firefighters and telling them what happened. There's another guy in there whose son was in a 4-wheeler accident, head injury, and he was in the same room as Ryan, and they were planning this big escape thing. And, you know, he owned some thing down the bayou somewhere, and his boys came and got him in an airboat and just told doctors, like, I mean, they came in, you know, M16s and shit, and they're like, we're taking my son. And Doc's like, take him, you know. And as they were leaving, he came in the room and he goes, Cook, I'm not going to forget about you. And split, gone. So he grabbed his son, he split in the airboat, they were gone. A couple of days later, I run into these firefighters. And I'm like, look, man, I'm like, this is what's going on. I got a son in ICU. He's probably going to fucking die. I want to do, let's get him out of here. They're like, let's get him out of here. What do you want to do? I'm like, I want to get him out of here, you know. So my brother and I got on the phone. We started working on a plan. He had a buddy from the military who had a chopper. He was in Alabama. So he got this big logistics plan to get a chopper. I'm like, I'll get him on the ground. You get him in the air. So that was our deal. So me and these firefighters, like, this is the plan. The chopper's gonna fly in at 1300. We're gonna go up to the 7th floor. We're gonna take my son out of there. And they're fucking firemen, you know, they're fucking big burly dudes. And they're medically trained guys. Yeah. And I told the doc, like, bro, I'm taking my son out of here. Like, absolutely not, you're not. We're not gonna let you do that. I'm like, Doc, I'm taking my son out of here. You know what I mean? You really don't have a choice about it, you know? And these firefighters come in like, get out of here, Doc, we got it. You know what I mean? And the doctor just kind of turned and walked away, you know? And so a crash nurse from the hospital said, I'm gonna go with you. I'm like, great. So 3 firefighters, a crash nurse, me, manually bagging Ryan on a stretcher. They wrap him all up. We run down. The crash guy jumps on Ryan's chest on the stretcher, and he's just like, that's his job. You know, that's for the next 6 hours. You know, just do that so he's breathing. Down 7 flights of stairs.
A stretcher. Four people on.
Running, yeah. And I'm with him, you know, like, whatever. I dragging along my ex-wife with me, tiny little girl. And so we all get down to the boat. We get on the boat, and we take the boat to the Superdome, and Poydras is underwater. We land on the pedestrian walkway on Poydras, like a boat ramp. Boom, come up. Grab Ryan off. The crash nurse is on top of him, still pumping him. We start running up the freaking ramp. You know, it's a bajillion degrees going on. You know, it's like, oh my God, it's so freaking hot. You know, it's brutally death hot. I remember we run up there and it's just chaos. I mean, these National Guard guys are like waving, these kids with M16s, and we're just running like, get out of the way. And we're like pushing National Guard guys on the ground, like move. And these firefighters like, emergency, you know, and you see the chopper coming in. New Orleans is a no-fly zone. Like no-fly zone, like military police protected no-fly zone. Here comes my boy, you know, just ripping through buildings with 2 on his ass, you know. And he just comes in, and we run to the freaking helipad at the dome, and we throw the guys off the helipad who are trying to guard it, whatever, and just threw them off the fucking side. I don't know if they lived or whatever. And here he just comes in and boom, just fucking puts it down, drops the back, shove him in there. Dude looks at me and goes, got him, click, gone. Boom, and he was just gone, down, up, out. And
Holy
my
shit.
ex-wife's freaking out, like, take us with you. And I'm like, it's him, it's a pilot, it's a crash nurse on the plane, and it's him. That's the only thing they can put on the chopper. It's a fucking bed, you know what I mean? It's just a get in, get out, fucking a zipper, you know? And it's just boom, boom, get in there, go. So now we're sitting in the helipad, and it's quiet again, and the firefighter's like, what do y'all want to do? Where do you want to go? Like, you want to stay here? You want to go back to the hospital? And I remember just like looking over my shoulder, and the 5 tons were just backing up to the dome, and just tens of thousands of people are pouring out of these fucking trucks into the dome. And I'm just like, I'd rather be at the hospital where we know our people, and at least we can help and do things over there. We know where we're going to sleep. Let's go back to the hospital. Firefighters brought us back to the hospital and dropped us off, like, good luck, thank you, have a good time. We sent Ryan to Herman Memorial Hospital in Houston. And so we're back in the hotel, back in, you know, zero land. And a couple days later,
This blows my mind.
it's, you know, 1 o'clock in the morning. I recruited some other kid who was in the hospital for some who stayed. I don't think he even had any friends in there. He was there doing something, whatever, but I ended up making him part of my security team. At that point, we had formed security teams. And he was part of my security team. We were kind of running shifts in there, and he was hanging out in my corner of the world, which I made my own in that waiting room. And it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and the door kicks open, 3rd floor waiting room, and it's a bunch of flashlights. These dudes pop out ARs, and they're like, who's cook? And I'm like, right here. He's like, get your shit. This isn't the Holiday Inn. We're getting out of here. I'm like, let's fucking go. So ex-wife's freaking out. I grabbed the dude. I'm like, you're in or you're out? He's like, I'm in with you, dude. Anywhere you go, I'm not staying here without you. I'm like, let's go. So I grabbed this dude who I don't know, grabbed my ex-wife, and these guys, we go back down the stairway, get to the 1st floor. Water's probably at this point only neck high. I guess it was like neck high for me. So I had my ex-wife up on my shoulders, and I'm like carrying her on my shoulders. She's a tiny little thing, maybe like 5'3". And these guys are guns over the head. And the plan was they were going to bring a boat in. So we humped from Charity to Chop, you know, up here in the warehouse district, the old elevator factory. And well, we went to Loyola Avenue first. We humped from Charity to Loyola. And then on the neutral ground in Loyola, they had parked this big giant truck. And behind it, they had this huge aluminum like boat that, you know, they were aluminum shop. These guys welded this, you know, center console, massive boat. And I'm like, what's up with the boat? And they're like, well, we thought about, we get in here, there's a bunch of shooting going on. We had to shoot a couple people on the way in here. If we took the boat off, it's more time. If we would get in and out quicker, I'm like, makes sense to me, let's go. So we jump in.
Who were they?
I don't know. No idea.
How did they know about you?
The guy who got his son out with the 4-wheeler accident.
Said he wouldn't forget
Said he
you.
wouldn't forget about me.
Oh, wow. Who's cook?
No idea.
Holy smokes.
So we jump in a truck on Loyola, and we drive to Chapatulas, under the bridge by the warehouse factory over here, which I fucking live in one of the buildings now. And inside one of these rooms on the street, there's like this fucking mash set up, and there's a fucking table. It's like soft drinks, water, Band-Aids, you know, Doritos, sandwiches, cigarettes. I'm like, fucking cigarettes. I hadn't had a cigarette at this point in like weeks, you know? So I'm like, I'm outside like smoking like 4 cigarettes. I'm like, oh my God, cigarettes, so great, you know? And this guy hands me a satellite phone. He's like, call your people, tell them you're out. I'm like, fucking it. So I'm like, da-da-da-da-da-da, sat phone, call my brother. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm out. He's like, fucking A. He's like, get to Houston. I'm like, roger that. Hang up. He's like, where you got to go? I'm like, my son's at Herman Memorial Hospital in Houston. He's like, when do you want to leave? I'm like, let's go. He's like, let's go. So I cut the other dude loose, still don't know his name. I remember big Ford, like farm, XLT, big bad truck, you know, big. And he's like, everybody jumps in, you know, the truck, and like, get in, cook. I'm like, I'm gonna ride in the back. I'm like, we're going to Houston. I'm like, I'm gonna ride in the back. So I set up in the back, you know, you made blanket and everything in the back there so I could smoke. And I remember we came out, you couldn't go out that way because I-10 was gone. So you had to go over the bridge and then go all the way back out, you know, and then come back around. So we got over the bridge. I remember going over the bridge, and that night it was like every star in the sky was lit. No lights anywhere. As far as you could see, was
Still.
no lights.
It's still.
Done. Fire over here, fire over there, you know, just some rat-tat-tat every now and then. And we get over and we stopped at some place. I grabbed like a shitty coffee or something, you know, and I fell asleep in the back of the truck. And I woke up and the sun was up and they were parked in front of the emergency room at Herman Memorial, like, God bless you. I'm like, God bless you. And they hugged me. Drove off.
Still don't know.
No idea.
Wow, dude.
Crazy.
That's insanity.
Yep. Walked in the hospital. Family's there. My whole family had evacuated. My brother lived in Houston at the time. He's in the Woodlands, so everybody's there at his house. Everybody, whole family. So like everybody, kids, their cousins, their friends. I was, my overload human, nightmare. But I get in the hospital. I'm like, how's Ryan? Like, he's alive. I'm like, great. And they're like, what do you want to do? What's going on? I'm like, somebody give me their car keys. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, somebody give me their car keys. I'm going back to New Orleans. And they're like, no, you're not, dude. You're not going. I'm like, give me your car keys or I'm going to fucking go steal a car outside and leave anyway. Let's go to the house first. So we all went to the house. Mom's there and my dad's there and everybody's fucking there and they're freaking out, man. And I'm like, somebody give me their car keys right now. I'm going back to New Orleans. And they wouldn't. So I ended up like taking my brother's car. And I remember I backed out of the driveway, hit everybody's car in the driveway, like, cut on purpose, and just smashed everybody's cars. And then backed up and drove straight back to New Orleans. And then drove back to New Orleans. And just started, fucking firefighting, like hooked up with a bunch of cats who own restaurants who needed help doing things. I'm like, fucking am you man, let's go, So Bruce Adinger and those guys who own Outback and all those things, we based ourselves out of Baton Rouge. We hooked up with Harlan, who owns LAC, Louisiana Fresh, Louisiana Seafood, LA Seafood.
Yeah.
Harlan had a place up in Baton Rouge that he had running, so we had ice and shit up there. So we're like, we had the Suburban, we called like the Suburban Urban Wagon. And so Bruce Adinger, next door neighbor was like Master P, he lives in like Baton Rouge Country Club or some shit. His wife Jan, sweetheart, cooked us fucking black bean soup every day. Still to this day, I brag about it. And we'd be in front of the house, like just loading magazines, click, 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 and shotguns, ching, ching, ching. And everybody, dude, try and keep the guns down. My wife's really nervous about shit. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, like we're just loading fucking heavy, So I was like, 45, 9, fucking Mossberg 500, AR, let's go. And Harlan would get in front of us and we get in the Suburban. There was a couple of us sat phones. And the goal was to get in, grab the registers, grab all the cash, get everything out of the safe. We can get out of the restaurants. We had 4 restaurants to hit in New Orleans that day. And one of them was in Jefferson Parish. And so I'm in like cut off khakis, I got like a fucking Foster's beer shirt or some shit on, with a fucking like AR. I'm just to the gills.
Jeez.
We were hitting the restaurants. A fucking Suburban's full of fucking, registers and all kind of shit that we could save out of the restaurants. We get to the one in Jefferson Parish off of Veterans and standard shit. We pull in the front, the guys go inside. I'm out front, like burning one, on guard. And then this fucking 2 cop cars come rolling up and they kind of jump out, and they're like, pull their guns like, freeze. And I'm like, no, you freeze. I'm like covered on this position on the wall and they're like behind their car. And they're like, drop your weapon. I'm like, I'm gonna count to 3 and one of you will never see your family again. 3, 2, and they like drop, I'm like, okay. I'm like, so let me tell you what's going on. And at this point, here comes my boys out of the restaurant like, like deer in the headlights, stack of banks, the fucking safe and shit. And they're like, back up, everybody freeze. I'm like, I told you if you pull a fucking gun, you're fucking dead, man, So I told them, I said, okay, all 4 of you guys right now, I'm like, you right there, you're dead. You can't, you shoot me, you die no matter what. And I'm on his head. I'm like, I'm gonna end you. And I pop a shot at his mirror, the side mirror. I'm like, bing. I'm like, that quick, you're not gonna stop it. Put your guns down. So they all put their guns down. And I'm like, and I walk out and like cover them all. I'm like, y'all put your fucking hands up. I'm gonna get these 4 cops covered. And they come out. And they're like, whoa, we own the restaurant. This is our property, and da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, I fucking told you, motherfuckers, don't mess with me, So they all like, all right, we're good. We ended up befriending the guys, Like, and they're like, let's get you out of here. What can we do for them? Like, we need to go here, need to go here. So we pick up these JPs and we start running police in these restaurants. And then we start finding out friends of ours are trapped in a convention center. And we're like, we need to get our friends out of the convention center. One of our guys, a good friend of mine, Billy, kitchen guy, he's there with his 2 little kids. And they're like, we need to get him out. What do we do? And I'm like, let's get him out, whatever we got to do. So we teamed up with a local SWAT team. And we ran a SWAT mission into the convention center. And we went in like a SWAT team, and fucking yanked him and his wife. Because
How could you find him and all that humanity and just...
Communication in the beginning going on where he would be. And we got a word to him that said, look, just be on the south end of the convention centers, as far away from people as you can, and because what happens is when someone shows up, everyone assumes they're coming for them. If they're not coming for them, they're mad you're not coming for them,
Right.
So it became a position where we had to get in and get out as we could without shooting as many people as we had to shoot. It's like, let's not make a civilian casualty situation out of it. And so we came in and we got him out, and we got him to his house out in Metairie, gave him a bunch of money, had to get his cat out of his house. He'd been locked in his fucking house for like a week and was angry. The hardest part of the whole thing was getting that cat from under the fucking bed.
Cats hate water too.
Oh, cats don't like any fucking thing, man. I got cats, dude. So, I mean, I was all scratched up that day, like, take your cat, you know. We got him out of town, and then it just became a mission, you know. I mean, I ended up shacking up at the Wildlife and Fisheries Department in Baton Rouge, and out of there we started running relief food trucks. We had like 30 food trucks back there and trailers that we were running about 6,000 or 7,000 meals to into the city, taking care of National Guard. We got passes to every bridge. We started hauling generators. We started doing liaisons with some other towns out of town, Nashville, and places where they were bringing in huge, 18-wheeler sized generators. And, the twin span was gone. So to get to Slidell, you had to go Causeway around back, and then you had to go back around Causeway back. So if you were like in New Orleans East, you had to do a 4-hour drive to get, 5 minutes. So it just became like a search and rescue mission, and stuff like that.
Your whole life was like leading up to that almost.
It was. And at the same time, like, I knew that Ryan was out and that was it. And my obligation, she was back with her husband and they were back where they needed to be. And Ryan was in the best care he could be in. And I'm not any good sitting over there. Let me go do what I'm good at, So I got back into the city, and that's when I got back into the city, back into the city for good, and that kind of led into relationships with the city and me staying there and hanging out. And then I got approached. I was living in an apartment with I think there's 12 of us in there, like a 2-bedroom. And I had like a futon or some shit in there, but we played like Fight Night every night, on Xbox, and like got hammered. It was like the restaurant rotation squad, And somebody was like, man, Commanders is going to reopen. I'm like, no way. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, So I went down there, I remember, and they were, 18 months they were closed, and they rebuilt the whole place, And I remember I met Tom Roby in the courtyard, Big Tom, he's been there for like 24 years, big boy from New Jersey, big boy, white boy fro, goatee, fucked up, and takes me out, in the courtyard around the fountain, he's like this, he's staring at me, his little beady eyes with his glasses, he's like Joe Chef, and I had long hair at this point, I think, and I'm like in a flannel. I'm like,
Was Tori there?
Tori was there, yeah, and he said, I'll never forget, he said, Cook, what do you know about food? I just looked at him and I said, absolutely nothing. And he just sat back and he went, you're overqualified. When can you start? I'm like, I'm ready tomorrow. He's like, see you tomorrow. And that was it. That was my interview.
Wow.
And we came back in and we reopened Commanders, and it was just a whirlwind, man. It was like fucking HBO in there, with cameras, and I'm like a saute guy, I'm like, it was just, cameras and just, it was massive, it was a huge thing, and I remember that we were doing dry runs one night, and it was the night the Saints were back in the Dome.
Monday Night Football.
And everybody was really, 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 gripped about the restaurant, And of course, we were really excited about the Saints playing in the Dome at that point. And we were literally running dry runs. Like, we're not even cooking. We're like scenario.
Going through the motion.
Yeah, this is this, and this guy says this. This guy, this does this. And we just did all these things. We're hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, And it became later on in the afternoon, and I'm like, and I happened to be the one to be like, yo, Chef, we can get out of here, man, catch that Saints game? Boom. Boy, wrong thing to say, What, you think it's more important than opening this restaurant? I mean, it was a big fight, man. Like, we got into a big argument. Everybody started screaming at each other, la, 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 la. Chef storms out, things settle down. Sous Chef's like, what's wrong with you, asshole? I'm like, just telling you, man. It's like the Saints are back in the Dome. It's kind of a big deal, And they kind of settled down for a little while, and we're doing things. And one of the sous chefs kind of came by and said, you're right, man. This is bigger than us. And I'm like, it's bigger than us, man. It's bigger than Commanders. I'm like, we should be, at least watching this damn game, And then finally, Tori came down, a couple hours later, and he's like, oh, y'all want to go to the damn game? Go to the game. So tomorrow we're back at 6 a.m. I'm like, fine. I'm like, let's just see the game, And he's like, y'all clean this kitchen, then you can leave. Brand new Jade Titan range, $2.6 million. Everything is stainless, We put this massive cleaning on it, and we get the okay. So we sprinted from 1403 Washington to Magazine Street, hooked a right, ran the 3 blocks down to the Rendezvous Bar, busted in there, which is our neighborhood bar. We know everybody, And it's packed. Everyone knows us. And I get to the end of the bar, and like people get out of the way 'cause it's my fucking bar. And I sit down. I had a High Life. I had a Jameson in front of me. And the game's, coming on. I'm like, all right, we're ready to go. And like 5 minutes later, Tori comes walking in, and I look over at him, and I had a beer and a shot for him. Like, here, man. He's like, yeah, man. And right when we kind of went to go toast, like we looked up, and that was the block punt.
Yeah.
So Gleason blocks the punt, and it was like the biggest moment in the world. Just second biggest moment to winning the Super Bowl was that block punt.
Yeah.
And the place erupts. I mean, it's people crying. I look at Tori, I'm like, it's bigger than us. And he's like, you were right. And that was our friendship. That's how it started. And so.
How many years at Commanders?
I don't know, 4 or so, maybe 4 or 5, somewhere around there. You kind of hit a wall with that place. Again, I was just, it's me. I'm driven. You know what I mean? And I need to keep being pushed and keep being challenged and keep doing things. And I was very confrontational with people. And Steve Woodruff, who's a great friend of mine, is a GM. Like I almost tattooed 1403 Wash on my knuckles. I actually had a party at the bar one night. We made a 64 bracket like you do for the basketball tournament.
Yeah.
We said, give me 64 8-lettered things that we're going to knock it down to the final 4 and pick, I'm going to put them on knuckles tonight. And one of them was 1403 Wash, and it got to the final 4. The other one, it went up to the championship, was 1403 Wash and Extra Mayo, XTRAMAYO, like, because I'm everything, my Pro Boys always dressed Extra Mayo. So I was doing Extra Mayo, XTRAMAYO. And then something happened, I got drunk and then ended up not doing it. But, I drank the Kool-Aid, man, you know what I mean? And a lot of things happened in there. There was a fraud thing that happened in there with them. They caught a guy who was stealing millions from them, and a lot of that stuff kind of falls on us, in the kitchen. They kept blaming us for everything and all this stuff. And no one knew that restaurant better than me and my roommate. He opened it, I closed it. Anything that was in that building, he bought it, I checked it in. And we would, if we needed something, we made it. We didn't have it, we stole it. There was no waste. There was nothing. It either went to the stock kettle, it went to the demi pot, or it went on a dish. We didn't waste anything, not a bone, not an eyeball, not a brain, not a nothing. We made every freaking thing. And we started taking some crap for it, and it got bad. And so eventually I was like, you don't trust us? Q, I'm out. And there's no good way to leave the place. So of course I went out like a hero. I ended up, bartender friend of mine was in a bunch of trouble because he was leaving to go do one of those bartender international training, super shaky, those things were just kind of coming around, bar chef things, He put in his notice that night, and they said, don't bother, just get out of here after tonight, make it your last shift. And he was a stud. He was my boy, He was like on the trade program, like, ribeye for the drink tonight? Absolutely, he was my boy. And he was mad. And then I was mad. And I'm like, well, let's be mad together. So we closed the restaurant that night. We busted out the golden key and cracked the Louis tray. And we poured ourselves about 3 fingers each of Louis tray, grabbed a bottle of Moet Chandon White Star, and walked down to the bar. And we popped White Star and drank it out of the bottle while sipping on frickin' $5,000 worth of fucking cognac. It didn't sit well with the family,
No, I can't imagine.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that was kind of it,
Well, how do you get to the point you're at now with this hit place on Magazine? How do you fill in the
Few
gap?
places between Commanders and Gris-Gris, right?
Yeah, at that point, as good as I thought I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't smart. Being restaurant smart's a whole different thing than being kitchen smart. And I learned a lot front door, back door, but I didn't know reality. So I got into a couple other big restaurants around town. Some big, $18, $19 million operations, and I just kept butting heads because I had a plan. I had an idea. This is what we can do. Like restaurants that have been famously known for like French Quarter restaurants. I'm like, why aren't we a local restaurant? Like, why don't locals eat here? Why? Because it's crap. Let's fix it, man. This is, let's fix it. And they're like, we'll fix it. I'm like, let's not do 2,700 covers tonight. Let's do 1,500. Let's cut it in half, raise the prices, do it better, and stop relying on staring at that line in front of the door that's going next door, not coming to you, And so I had a couple opportunities. We did some things, and then one month we were like in a PR meeting or something with the whole company, and our PR person at the time was really a great friend of mine, still to this day. She was going through all the restaurants and all their PR stuff, and Chef Eric had 71 million hits this quarter, and they were like, what? No one was even close, I'm like 71 million. And And then it started the capping of me. Like, you got to stay in the kitchen. We need you wearing long sleeves from now on. We don't want you in the dining room talking to guests. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I got 50 cooks and 10 sous chefs. You want me working saute? I mean, what do you want to do? I mean, I'm chef, man. Like, this is what's happening. I'm chef. I work what I need. I cook. I do specials. I'm in and out. I purchase. I'm 16, 17, 18 hours a day. I'm like, I'm chef, man. Like, what do you want me to be? You know, like, and so I actually ordered shirts with the company logo and everything on it that were 3/4 sleeve, and started wearing them around the kitchen. And one day, like, director of HR came into the kitchen, you know, and me and this guy, I'll call him Bobby. He was my chef in residence, great dude, like John George, like he was a big heavy hitter guy. And he was my chef in residence, and he was just a road drove a Triumph, you know, he was just smoking cigarettes. He didn't give a shit about nothing. We kind of were, you know, two peas in a pod. And he never wore a hat, and I never rolled my sleeves down. And one day they came in and were sitting there on the line talking, you know, and we broke $1 million about every 18 days in that restaurant.
Wow.
And so we knew what we were doing, you know, I mean, I knew every number up and down. And she came and said, Bobby, put a hat on. And said, Chef, we told you need to roll your sleeves down. I'm like, yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. And I rolled my sleeves down to here. And it was the third crowd. I was like, here you go. She's like, all the way down. I'm like, they're all the way down. Sorry, that's what you get. You know, and I walked off, you know what I mean? And that was really it. We were both on the way out. He's now in the Virgin Islands somewhere, you know, living his life. And I kind of left the next day with everything, you know, and I was just gone, you know. But the first thing I did when I opened the restaurant was I went back and I apologized to
Thank you.
my former employers, all of them. I made it a point to go see every one of them and apologize for the way I acted, thinking that I knew better than they did, because now I was a restaurant owner and it sucked.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare. And,
What
you know,
year did you open Gris-Gris?
2018. Signed leased on
What month?
opened August 1st,
So
dead of summer. Everybody said I was
little
crazy.
over a year and a half before COVID hit.
Yeah, and we were on point. We were rolling. We opened up. I mean, huge bread pudding, man. But yeah, and then, you know, and now I've gone back, and now, you know, I had to sit down and be like, look, you know, I thought I was just humbled by the restaurant business. You know,
So you went back to every employer.
and apologized for me thinking I knew better than them, and they were all like, it's hard, isn't it? I'm like, yes, ma'am. It's extremely hard, and I was dumb, and I apologized. And like, if you need anything, call us. You
That's
know, I've
huge.
since leaned on these people along the way, you know, especially with COVID, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, it's something like people always. And now my philosophy is with restaurants is everybody's got an opinion about them. You know, I always say, if it's not your business, then it's not your business, and that's it. You know, because it's your business. And it's none of mine. You know what I mean? And I've had employees come through and GMs come through who, you know, think they know everything. I've been in business for 35 years. Great. Write me a check for like $3.5 million and I'll sit down and listen to you. Well, you know, I'm like, well, then you can shut up and get out. That's the price you pay if you want to have your opinion on how this business is going to run. Yeah. You know what I mean? And everyone doesn't know that. Everyone thinks there's a freaking money tree outside that we shake and, you know, we pay bills, you know, but so I learned it, and that was my motto now. If it's not your business, then it's not your business.
And then Saint John in the Quarter. Great name, by the way.
Yeah, a post-COVID investment into what I thought would be a rebirth again of New Orleans. Like, you know, post-Katrina was difficult, but everyone was united.
Yeah.
With one goal. And everyone was only mad at, you know, the people who weren't helping us. There was no this city versus that half of the city. It was this demographic versus this demographic. We were all one, you know? And what COVID did was just put a line right down the middle. Boom. And it said either you're on team this or we hate you and hope you die. It was it. There was no gray zone. There was no middle zone. It was you were on team vac or team no vac, you know? And it was violent and it was insane. And I watched people go absolutely insane. You know, I mean, I've seen a lot, but I've seen people lose their minds, really lose their minds, you know?
Yeah.
And the city shut down, you know, and we as restaurant owners were never given an option to do anything. Nothing. It was like, these are the rules and that's it, you know? And, you know, it was a major deal, man. It was a major deal. Like, you get vaccinated or you don't get your permits. That was really things. You know, like, either you get vaccinated or we don't let you sell food. That's what New Orleans did to restaurants. You're either in or out. And then people fought it and didn't do it and da-da-da-da-da. And it was no. But, you know, New Orleans, there's always some new disaster to wash out the last disaster, you know. But that was a disaster, you know, and it separated a lot of people, but it separated the whole city. And we thought, and we didn't get any help from the government at all, you know, for COVID, nothing. You know, we didn't get anything, you know, $0.00. And so we stayed house money. I was closed from March 16th to November 4th. I remember telling my wife, I was like, no matter what happens in the election, I'm opening the next day. She's like, at that point we were so broken. She's like, you open your restaurant. I'm like, fine. And I couldn't find anybody to open. You know, I had to fly people in. I was like getting people apartments, moving them from Philly, from DC, from New York, Chicago, I mean, the West Coast, flying people in, man, you know. But we bought into we're back. We're gonna all come together, you know. And unfortunately, it did the opposite. You know, New Orleans just fell into its deepest hole it's ever been into, and it currently still is, you know. And hopefully we're on the verge now of new leadership coming into play in the city, and we can maybe start doing some, you know, positive stuff, you know. But it's really been a free-for-all, you know, for the last 5 years. You know, it's just been a complete, absolute disaster on every level, you know. And it's embarrassing. You know, I used to love welcoming guests, man, to New Orleans. There's nothing better, you know, when you're in the downstairs in this restaurant, man, you're in the kitchen. And that's the greatest table, man, you know, because you're like, people are like, what? And we do 350 people through here for dinner. That's a lot. We're less than 1,400 square feet. You mean that it's a 3-man line and one person, you know. It's like, it's a machine. It's just a display of organization and simplicity, you know what I mean? But it's the beauty of it. It's just everyone has their job due, everyone does their job, we win. We work hard, but we win, you know? And having that moment of sharing that thing with guests and you know, inviting them into the city, you know, it became almost like every guest who sat down there, you know, the same question was always asked, like, the city's really bad, huh? You know, and I'm like, and I'd always try and lighten it up and be like, when was it ever good? You know what I mean? You know, and that was kind of the rule, like, when was it really good, you know? And so instead of like entertaining guests and dealing with guests and you know, involving guests in things, it was like I was apologizing to guests, you know, like, and that's sad, you know, because people are like, we used to come here all the time, we don't anymore, you know, we'll come back and see you. I'm like, great, you know, and we made friends through that kind of situation, but, you know.
So through all that you battled with the electric folks, you battled location. I mean, we could keep going. Yeah. Like this past New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
The night before New Year's Eve.
That building right there fell down.
Fell down.
Yeah. In the middle of service.
That's insane.
Knocked out the power.
Shut down the power, crushed everybody's cars, took out power. I mean, telephone poles, you know, like.
So New Year's Eve is the night. You got to, I mean, here in New Orleans, you got New Year's Eve.
But that's, I mean, before October, before the building collapsed, we had a massive fire in October. So all the houses next to our restaurant, which, you know, are 20 feet behind us, the whole block was on fire. So massive, like 17 alarm fire, you know, just all stopped. And then we lost a long time. We had, how long were we closed? Probably 2 weeks for the fire? 9 days. We had Servpro in here trying to get smoke out. Everything had smoke damage. Our umbrellas, you can look outside, still have melted material. Oh, we got new umbrellas finally? Oh, good. Okay.
New umbrellas.
But the umbrellas are melting on the balcony, you know, and we, of course, couldn't be like, they're still good. They block the sun, you know. But the smoke damage in here was insane, you know, insane. I mean, we lost weeks in October, prime time, you know, in a very small season, you know, we lost all that. And then a few months later, one of the buildings involved in a fire, it collapsed. You know, and
night before New Year's Eve, it's your big night.
Sugar Bowl booked. Booked. Thursday. It was a Thursday night. We're booked solid, you know. When we're booked. These are big nights for us. You know, this is you make hay when the sun's shining, you know, when down here. And lost everything, you know. And then New Year's Eve happens, and then the tragedy, the terrorist attack on New Year's Eve happens. You know, and it's like left hook, right hook, left hook, right hook, you know. It was just like it doesn't end, man, you know. So the fire happens, the terrorist thing happens, and then, you know, now
And the Super Bowl's coming.
Super Bowl's coming in February. And of course, you know, they put we laughed about Super Bowl for a long time, you know, and I still do, and it's a big issue with people in New Orleans. You know, the Super Bowl was probably one of the biggest busts in the history of New Orleans as far as benefiting New Orleans. Zero, nada. Like, you would think an event like that, which in the past, I've been here for 4 of them now, you know. I remember sitting in one of the kettles, you know, in the back of a restaurant in the French Quarter, literally one of those 60-gallon kettles. I had it tilted back so I could sit in it like a chair, listen to the game, one of the games on the radio, you know, in there, you know, and then the game had ended, like, roar, up until 2 in the morning, let's go, you know. It was, you know, all week, people out, tour, blah, blah, blah. That week, nothing.
What is it? The NFL brought in their own entertainment or something?
Everything stayed downtown. It was all corporate events, and everything was, this is where you go, this is what you do. Local restaurant groups had like a list of restaurants to go to because they're members of your group and la, 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 you know, and if you're not a member of that, you don't get on the list, you know, and it was a bust. It was a complete bust, you know, and then, you know, you see things like, we spent $100 million on, you know, showing off, enhancing New Orleans culture. I don't know a single person's name on that committee who spent $100 million to enhance our culture. What did we enhance? What, are we not New Orleans all around? Do we need $100 million just to say, look at us, New Orleans? Does it take $100 million to, you know, $15 million to move homeless people out of the downtown and put them in a $13 million, you know, temporary setup? At $13 million, you could have gave every one of those homeless people like $990,000 and they wouldn't be homeless anymore. Or you could have gave like each homeless person $100,000 and said, go find a way. I mean, like all that money could have done a lot different than stick them in a warehouse with no AC, no food, no water, no nothing. Be like, get them out of the way, you know? It was just a everything under the rug situation. And then of course, building collapsed downtown, you know? All our friends owned restaurants shut down, you know? It was just roads diverted, you know? Everything was just, it was the pig on the lipstick, man. Lipstick on the pig, you know, and it was embarrassing, you know, and it was just embarrassing, you know what I mean?
What now?
So, you know, it used to be, for us, you know, look, it's disheartening, it's hard, you know. I think I'm lucky enough to have one of the greatest restaurant staffs ever. And I'm sure a lot of restaurant people say that, but I'll fight other restaurants on that one.
I believe you.
In a set, like, bring it. You know what I mean? Like, I'll put my kitchen on anybody. You know what I mean? In a fight or at war, you know, because if I'm in the front, we're not going to ever quit, you know. And when they don't quit, you know, and we go up and down. We have, you know, people come, people go and all, but there's a core here. There's a value here, you know. And I always say it, man, 99% of being a great restaurant is just being cool. That's it. Just be cool, man. You know, I tell you, we invite, everyone's welcome, man, you know, and I say, I don't care if you got a bone in your nose. I don't care where you come from, what you do, what you look like. As long as the Health and Human Resources Department for the, you know, state permit board says you can do that, then you can do it. You know what I mean? And I tell people, just, you're here because you're cool. Just be cool. You know what I mean? You don't always need this is our first step of service. And then you go into step 2, which is, good evening, we offer la 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 la. I'm like, be yourself. No one wants the stiff thing, man. You know, if it's a small restaurant like this, you give one guy the spiel, and then somebody sits 5 minutes later, you give them the spiel. Now it feels ingenuine to them, and it sucks for them, because, you know, just be you. Be yourself. And, you know, the restaurant, the building, the environment, the atmosphere, the people are 98% of the game. Everything else is fluff, man, you know? I mean, we're doing simple food, you know? We're not telling people you're coming in here and getting the Escoffier run for your life. Like, this is my grandmother's shit. You know what I mean? If you don't think it's right, tell me my grandmother's food sucks and we can step outside. You know what I mean? It's not easy. You know, and I don't care. And I've thrown people in that fountain. I've punched people in the face in front of this restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, we're not here to win awards. We're here to just be a restaurant, man, you know, and be diverse and be New Orleans.
Yeah.
And it's you know, we got to let go of the sides again, you know, but we don't have any support from a modern municipality. It's supposed to be one of the leading places in the world for entertainment and culture, you know, and New Orleans is the greatest food city in the world, and it's the absolute worst city in the world to be in food. And that's a true statement. There's no greater food city in the world than New Orleans, and there is no place more terrible, more anti-success, more anti-small business, more anti-restaurant people than New Orleans. That's it. It's a good old boys club, and that's it. It sucks. It's just a snatch and grab. You know, and as much as commodities are and everything else is, like, just let us be a restaurant, man, you know?
Yeah.
It's that easy. Let us be a restaurant, you know? And New Orleans was a diverse, transient, you know, exciting, you know, the restaurant business, all we have. If you're not in the restaurant business in New Orleans, you're either an injury attorney or an injury attorney secretary, or you work in some of the fringe benefit destroying restaurants, bottom line.
Or you're selling billboards to the injury attorney.
The end. There's not a full building downtown.
The question. All right. We're going to lighten it up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I get heavy, man. I get heavy.
No.
You're good.
Yeah, I don't want to get too heavy.
I told you, it's just resilience. Everything this guy's been through. And he didn't even go through.
Dude, I mean, you lived it. I felt like we went through it as a group.
Show you this path in my backyard that's worn down now. It's this circle that I walk on.
You're the tiger in the zoo. Just walking pacing
back and forth, you know, like,
I should be in the jungle.
don't you think about stepping over that wall, man.
Actually, do. I
I want the kid with the balloon. You know, like,
Yeah. No shit.
I'm going to drown. You bring me back. I'll be okay.
I was young.
For $600.
Yeah.
That was big money back then.
Back then, that's big money. All right. What was the last thing you listened to music wise? What was in your car when you drove here or in the restaurant? We ask everybody this.
I'm kind of in a weird mood lately, and it's ironic we kind of talked about it earlier, but I'm kind of in the Don Henley mode.
Yeah.
Sunset Grill. I can listen to it 6 or 7 times in a row because I hear it, you know what I mean? And I visualize it, you know, when he talks about it. I see the Sunset Grill, you know, I hear, you know, the basket people walking by and mumble, you know, gaze out in the auburn sky, you know, and it's like, there's an old man from the old world, you know, calls every customer by name. You know what I mean? Like all those little lines, and I'm just like, click, I rewind, like, and I see that man, you know, at the end of the bar, you know. Weird. I'm all, you know, my brain's restaurant, you know, so the idea of a real Sunset Grill, you know, when he says things like, you know, maybe we'll leave come springtime, you know, in the meantime, have another beer. And he's like, what we do with all these jerks anyway? You know what I mean? All our friends are here, you know? And I'm like, so that's like New Orleans, you know? It's like, maybe we'll leave at the end of the season, you know? We'll do something different, you know? And you're like, well, let's just have another beer in the meantime, you know? But you know, what would we do to all these jerks? You know what I mean? You know, all these, you know, New Orleans people, they say the longer you live in New Orleans, you're unfit to live anywhere else in the world. You know what I mean? It's true, you know?
That's a great answer, by the way.
Thanks for your time.
I hate to drag it out, man.
As many times I've been to Gris-Gris, I've never been upstairs, and this private dining space is killer. So if nothing, you got a balcony here, you got a balcony there. The next time I've got a private group.
It's so cool in here, man. And I can do cooking right there. My entire book was shot on that corner of this table. And that's every one of the plates that are in the book.
Modern Creole is the book.
You're going to leave with a copy, trust me.
Hell yeah.
All right, here's his final question. Thanks for your time. You've been more than generous. You've been so open and raw.
Wow. Yeah.
And of course, I mean, that's you, and we appreciate you being you. So you're 12 years old. It's your birthday. Your mom says, Eric, I'm going to cook you whatever you want for dinner. What's that dish?
You had it tonight.
Yeah.
Chicken and dumplings.
Yeah.
It's been since before I was 12 years old. And to this day, my mother cooks me chicken and dumplings for my birthday. No one else gets it. I'm the youngest, by the way. It goes, that's an extra. But yeah, my mom's chicken and dumplings. My mom's chicken and dumplings was the first thing I put on the menu in this restaurant because it's what I got every year for my birthday, and I still do. And then when I became an adult and owned my own restaurant, I was like, I don't need to wait a year anymore. So I brought my mom in here, and she taught us all the move. And there's actually a picture in the restaurant on the wall up at the bar, a picture of me serving my mom's chicken and dumplings.
Beautiful.
Pretty cool.
Thanks for your time, but especially thanks for your friendship, man. I love you. You know I do, man.
Yeah, I love you too.
I respect you so much.
Yeah.
And I'm so impressed just with your life and with your resilience and with everything you've been through. It's like there's no quit in you. And I think it's the Marine in you. I think it's that athlete from early on, and you're a restaurant dog, and
I hate losing,
the
man.
fire of the thing.
You know, I hate losing.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, but I learned, sometimes you need to make a fighting withdrawal. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's what this business makes you do is, you got to just hold your ground every now and then. Sometimes you got to charge. And sometimes you just got to make like an aggressive withdrawal, a regroup, and it seems like the restaurant business over the last few years has been that. I'm so tired of hearing the word pivot. We got to pivot. We got to pivot. We're going to pivot. Restaurant needs to pivot. Business to pivot. I'm like, what happened to doing business, man? And that's my hope is that we can stop pivoting, man. Because when you're pivoting, you're not going forward. And if you're not going forward, then you're going backwards, man.
Keep going forward.
Yes, sir.
That's the hat, dude.
Onward.
Man, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, the number one thing that gets me is he chartered a helicopter in a no-fly zone to save his son.
With somebody he didn't even know. Still doesn't know who it was. He doesn't know the people that drove him to Houston. It was people coming together. And that's the thing about the South, I think, is that people came, we saw it here. I remember a truckload of chainsaws coming to Hattiesburg, a block away from where we are right here. People came together. And I mean, the guy that got thrown off the Superdome,
Yeah, I think he lived. Like, what?
The Mexican standoff with the police in the French Quarter.
Counting down from 3 with a AR-15. Yeah, that's insane. Well, we had an intense Katrina ourselves. My Uncle Paul rescued us. Our house was totaled by pine trees. And I thought our story was intense. And then you hear that and you're just like, okay. Yeah. I mean, it's not a competition, but if it was, he won as far as, and then just sheer heroics and then going back. Like getting out, most people would, if they got out, they would just stay out. Yeah. There's lots of people that just stayed in Houston, never moved back.
He went back that night.
He went back.
Checked on his son, and when you boil this whole episode down and you boil that story down, it is a father's love for his son and what a father will do for his son in any situation, in any crisis. That's what it is.
Yeah. He's a guy I'm glad we're friendly with him. Yeah. I would not bet against him. So thanks to Eric for sharing such a personal story too and forfeiting his time, man. And let's talk about the food at Gris-Gris, because everybody, remember, we weren't even going to eat at Gris. He didn't want us to eat at his restaurant. He wanted to go somewhere else because he's like, it's my place. I'm not trying to promote my place. And then something happened. It was something with the logistics. We couldn't book this specific place that he wanted to highlight. So we ended up eating in that upstairs room with literally Magazine Street in the background. And I think that was the perfect place. It rained. Yeah.
I remember it rained.
You can kind of watch the windows in the background as the day turned to night. And it was just, man, it was so cool. And man, the food was incredible.
So if you're new to this show, what we do is we invite people to sit down with us and share a meal. We don't want to take too much of their time because you got to eat. And Eric chose another restaurant. I didn't even remember. I'd never heard of that restaurant. I eat all over New Orleans all the time. I don't remember what the holdup was, and so we just at the last minute went upstairs at the private dining room at Gris-Gris, his restaurant, and had a hell of a meal.
Yeah. Oh, it was really good. Chicken and dumplings were.
It's a tough job, but somebody's got to chew it.
Oof. Ooh.
I need a rim shot.
Yeah. We'll add it in post. Okay. No, it was great. And we thank Eric again. And man, we're just getting started. This is only like and subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming up. We got some huge episodes with some heavy hitters. And it's only going to be more and more fun as we go along.
This is fun.
This is fun.
Onward.